All right, welcome to Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Lauderback from Cypress PD. He has 31 years experience in law enforcement. Really excited to have him on today's episode. So welcome to Words of the Wise, Chief Lauderback. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on your show.
Of course. I I wanted to ask you this question because we've talked offline, obviously, and I know you a little bit, but 31 years, that is a long time to be in law enforcement. Did you always want to be a cop?
No, actually, I never set out to do this job. This was the furthest thing from my mind, and I kind of fell into this job kind of by accident.
Can you
So,
can you dive into that a little bit?
yeah, so, I my family didn't want me to go into law enforcement, so they never steered me in that direction. And I was working for the Park Tree and Landscape Department for another city. And at the time, I was living with three other guys in a four-bedroom house, and one of the guys in the house was a police officer in Cyprus. And he said, "Hey, you know what? You like working outside, something different every day. You have a easygoing personality. You should be a cop." And I was like, "Oh, okay." I saw what was going on TV with the show Cops and stuff, and thought, man, it was action packed every single day. And so he took me on a ride along, and it happened to be in the middle of the week on a rainy day. And I think we went on two calls in 12 and a half hours. And so we were talking, and he goes, I said, "Well, tell me about this, how much you get paid, what are the benefits and everything." And I go, "You got to be kidding me. You make how much to do this all day long? Sign me up." And I just kind of fell into it. It wasn't a career path that I chose, or that I set out to do. I just thought it was kind of fun and a challenge, and decided, okay, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, and I draw so many parallels to that story, and that's why I asked you because I think that the number one question I always get is the same. Like, why did you start working with law enforcement? Like, why, you know, police? And I think the assumption is that like I was married to a cop or related to someone in law enforcement, and it's a very similar response that I always give people. I'm like, man, it just happened by chance, Like I met this guy and we were working like a mutual thing. And then he was like, hey, do you want to work with my recruit class? And I was like, sure. And like, didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And then like you fall in love with the environment and the people and, wanting to help people. And so I kind of drew, obviously it's not the same story, but I drew some parallels when you said that. I'm like, 'cause I feel like that's what I always say. I'm like, yeah, it just happened by chance or by
Yeah.
mistake. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's funny how you set out. You think you're going to do one thing in life, and then kind of, I don't want to say it throws you a curveball, but it gives you an opportunity to do something different, and you realize that's the path you want to go on. So, no, it's a pretty good comparison.
Well, and it's always too like now you look back and you're like, wow, like, and in talking to you, I know that you've loved this career. So it's like, wow, like we're so happy that those things happened, and for me, like I couldn't imagine working with anyone else. It's been the best, but it's definitely not what I set out to do either. And I always make jokes. I'm like, there are a lot of easier people I could have worked with than than law
Then
enforcement for
cops.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And and I'm sure for you too, there's a lot of like quote unquote easier jobs that you could have done, but this is the best. And
Oh, for
so
sure.
happy that it happened.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to ask you, 31 years, there was a conversation I had recently that, someone said you can't walk through mud for 31 years and not get your boots dirty, and there's stressors and there's things that you see throughout, a long career. What are some of the things that you've seen firsthand that have, maybe impacted your personal wellness or the wellness of others for that matter?
Yeah, I think it really goes to it, we don't deal with the greatest that society has to offer. And there's really no way to prepare yourself um, to really experience what a police officer has to go through on a daily basis, whether that's being criticized for the job you do. People don't know who you are behind this uniform and behind this badge, and they just assume what they've heard on TV is everybody that wears this uniform. So it's a blanket approach to the way they feel about you.
Mm.
And that plays a lot on your mental psyche, right? Coming to work every day and you want to come here and do a good job and you want to do um, good for the people in the community and for your family and for who you are as an individual. And you go out there and people just are negative towards you every single day of the week. That plays a lot on your mind. And then the things that we see, we see the worst that society has to offer. And no amount of training can prepare you to be involved in an incident where you see somebody who's been just gruesomely beat up or murdered or struck and killed by a car. Or, one of the things that over 31 years, I've seen a lot. I was part of our a fatal accident response team when I was with another agency. I did 27 years as a police officer with the city of Westminster.
Mm.
Started in 94, worked every assignment and promoted all the way up to chief of police in 2019. And after 2 years of being a chief at Westminster, I came over here to Cyprus in 2021. So during those times as an officer, I've seen, people shot, stabbed, decapitated, squished by a trash truck.
Mm.
And all those things kind of play into your mind and into just your psyche changes the entire time you're a police officer. And then the worst thing I had to do is a few years ago as a commander on the SWAT team, and we had an incident where a neighboring agency had a call of a shooting and a barricaded suspect and possibly a hostage. And by the time that we made entry in there, the suspect was dead, suicide, and he had killed his girlfriend. Well, unfortunately, I knew both of them. It
Mm.
happened to be the city clerk for the city I was working for, and the person who she was murdered, and then the person who murdered her and ultimately took his own life happened to be a guy that I worked with at the police academy.
Mm.
So going in there and having to identify, I would say, two friends at the time, uh, nothing prepares you for that. And it doesn't, there's no way you can unsee that. There's no way that you can just look at it like watching a TV show and then turn the TV off and go back to a normal life. There's some decompression and de-stressors that you have to go through. And those are some of the things that you try and prepare for in this job, but there's nothing you can do to make you prepared for things like that.
Yeah.
And luckily here in Cyprus, we don't have, there's always the potential for that regardless of what city you're in, but we don't have those types of calls going on a daily basis here in Cyprus, whereas other cities, bigger metropolitan cities do. So, yeah, just kind of tough that way.
Yeah, and to your point of like, that that's a part of the job. You can't, those things that you see and that you experience throughout your career, you can't control that, right? Like there's no way of you being able to control the things that you see or experience on the job. But what you said that I thought was really interesting is you have to have that decompression on the backside of it to be able to process those things. What were some of the things that you did for decompression, for offloading the things that you might not be able to prepare for on the front end, but how did you, process those things and recover from those things on the back end?
So for me, it was a lot of exercise,
Mhm.
um, talking to my friends, especially the other officers that you experience those things with, just kind of debriefing it, talking through it, helping each other out that way. Um, and then, on the personal side, when you leave work and you go home, for me, it was really time with family. It was time with the kids. It was getting away, making sure that when I left work at work and really took advantage of those times to get away with, when I was married and my kids were small, taking the time to go to the lake, to be out on the boat. I rode motorcycles, so it would just to get out and relax and focus my mind on something else other than work and what I had seen. And I don't want to say that it was a I think it was a smart thing, but when I was married, um, the I had my wife go on a couple ride-alongs just to kind of experience some of the things that we go through. And she went on three, and the first one was kind of slow, second one was a little busier, and the third one was completely out of control. And so she was able to understand, like, okay, I get it now. I get why you come home and you just kind of sit in the living room or go sit in the bedroom for a few minutes and decompress, or you get off work at 6 o'clock but you don't get home till 6:45, and I'm wondering where you're at, and now I realize you're just going for a drive to kind of relax and get your mind right and decompress that way, and not bring it home to the family.
I love that. I don't know if I've ever heard that before. Do you think that that's normal practice to have spouses or family members do ride-alongs to have a deeper understanding as to what you're going through?
I for me, I would say it was normal because I thought she would enjoy it. And at the time, we were young, we were in our 20s, and that was fun. It was exciting.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's a good idea. I think it's something that should be done, kind of like maybe on an annual basis, um, or to what they're comfortable with, to kind of see and to let them understand. Because there's what you see on TV, and it's very controlled, and there's no danger. It's all entertainment, and it's fun, and it's edited, and it's for entertainment purposes. But when you actually get out there and you see that, well, this is real life. Somebody could die, or we're dealing with somebody that was shot, or we're dealing with somebody that just was in a domestic violence incident, or um, somebody was in a car accident, and it might not be a bad accident, but it's traumatic to them. And so to see what you have to deal with, what your spouse has to deal with, one minute they're dealing with something, and 15 minutes later they're dealing with something completely different, traumatic, emotions are involved, and then you have to switch gears and go back over and handle something else that is a counseling call where you're amped up from this call and now you got to power down to go. So to see the emotional roller coaster that we go on and to actually experience firsthand, I think it's great. I think it helps. I think it helped in my case because she was definitely more understanding of who I was and who I was becoming. Because no
Yeah.
matter what in this job, no matter what we do, and we sit here and we talk on your podcast, and we get all these things, and get this information out, and we talk about therapy and you know going and doing decompression exercises or exercising. It's You're not the person you were day one, way through your career, or even to the end of your career. Nobody's the same person they were in the beginning. It's just the nature of the beast. And the more people that can see it and understand it, I think the better we're going to be in the end. Because ultimately the goal is to get to the end safely, right?
Yeah.
To get through a great career healthy, retire healthy, with all your body parts and all your mental capacity upstairs. And the more people that understand it and can help you, me, walk through this career, I think the better off we're all going to be, not just as an officer, but as a family too, because they're going through it as well.
Yeah. And having just a deeper understanding and empathy and being able to know that like you're not alone and that you can talk to people and there are people who are in your corner and want to walk with you and make sure that you're good. But then also I think having that grounding and a little bit of like accountability too for someone to like recognize those changes and maybe call you out a little bit and be like, hey, like I see this, and I think that could be a good thing in some ways too. Um, I don't know if you agree to that or not. I guess
I
I'm like,
no, you know what? I think you are 100% right. I mean, look at we have to call people out in our profession. We need people to call us out when we're dropping the ball, when we're getting a little too, I don't want to say nuts, but when we're getting a little too self-absorbed, or we're getting a little too over the top. And heck, man, I wish people would call me out on some stuff that when I was younger in my career and I thought I had all the answers. Now that I'm nearing the end of my career, I realize I didn't have the answers, but man, back then when I was, younger and thought I had all the answers, and nobody was calling me out on my BS or the way I was acting, who knows? Maybe it could have saved my marriage. maybe it could have saved relationships with family members. Maybe it could have saved relationships with friends because the one thing that I've always tried to do was make sure that my work-life balance of my cop friends versus my non-cop friends was non-cop friends are this much and my cop friends were down here. I worked with cops. I didn't want to hang out with them on my days off. I'd rather hang out with people that could put me back to center and keep me grounded. And I wish I would have had, like I said, I wish I, like you said, calling people out on their stuff. I wish I would have had that more.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and I do too. And I think that's always like when you get older, you're like, man, I wish. And I agree with you. Like I think there were times in my life too where I needed someone to give me a little bit of a shake.
yeah.
And and I don't know if I would have listened, but I would have heard it. I don't know if I would have listened, but I would have heard it. I know that, you rose through the ranks. So you were on SWAT for a period of time, yes.
Yes. 17
And
years.
I'm sorry.
I was on SWAT for 17 years.
17 years, you rose through the ranks, now you're chief. And to your point of what you said before, of like, I wish I would have had someone giving me advice. I wish I would have had someone maybe keeping me in check when I was younger and thinking that like I had it all figured out. If there's someone who's listening who's, maybe has aspirations of following your lead and maybe becoming a part of a SWAT team or maybe becoming a chief one day and a part of leadership, what advice would you give to them in terms of leadership? Like, how can you set yourself up to be a good leader and to, achieve those things that you want to within this career?
I would say there's a lot of things. And, I kind of take, you know, the way I look at leadership and the way I look at it myself is, always be willing to learn, be humble, set your sights on something and learn your craft. Be a master of your craft. And don't be afraid of criticism. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable and make mistakes. Because, right, I mean, without mistakes, without failure, you can't have success.
Mm.
And that's one thing I really preach. Hey, try it. If you fail, get back up, fix what went wrong, and let's go at it again. And looking at how my career went, um, I would just say always be a people person, be a servant leader. The ones who I've always said that the best supervisors I've ever worked for have been the worst supervisors I've ever worked for because there's things that some people do and they lead by the stripes on their sleeves or the bars or the stars on their collar, and you shouldn't. If that's the only way you know how to lead, then you're not the right guy or girl for that position. You should be a leader because you care about people, because you want what's best for everybody at the organization, not what's best for you.
Mm.
You're already where you're supposed to be. You want to make sure people get to where they want to be, and your job is to help them get there. And if we had more people that looked at leadership and supervision that way and delegated and trained and taught people how to be leaders, I think every industry would be better off for it. Not just law enforcement or the military, but any profession that you get into, because you always have to have supervisors. And, I've always made sure that when I've gotten something, my job from day one was to make sure I train my replacement
Mm.
and help get people. I don't want to say get people what they want, right? Because
Mm.
that's people have to work for what they want, but help them get to where they want to be.
Yeah.
So,
No, I love that. And I've said this, I say this all the time, but I think I've learned almost exclusively from my failures. I think that success is a byproduct of 100 failures. It's like, can you keep getting up? Can you learn from it? Because like I think that I've only succeeded because I've learned from things that haven't worked. And I like that you said be vulnerable enough to try and be emboldened and keep an open mind and um, when you said be a master of your craft, I really love that, but I also think that that plays into wellness. You know,
Mhm.
you can't be the best version of yourself and a master of your craft if you're not good physically, mentally, emotionally. And so for me, like that's what I think of too. It's like if I want to be the best at what I do, I have to be like on my A game. And if I want to be on my A game, that means I got to take care of myself. And sometimes when you're so focused on taking care of other people, you forget that in order to do that in the best way that you can, you have to be the best, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally. So I think it all kind of plays into wellness too.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you.
So, in the context of wellness, you like the little segue that I did. So, now
Ah,
on the conversation of wellness, you taught at Academy for 15 years and you taught physical fitness. Yes.
yes. Yeah.
How important do you think it is to introduce wellness early in the career?
Oh, I think you should be introducing it day one. And when I mean day one, I'm talking about that first intro class to law enforcement for anybody that's thinking about getting into law enforcement. Don't wait until they get in the academy to go, hey, we're going to go talk about lifetime fitness and how important eating right, getting enough sleep, not, filling up on monsters and Red Bulls and energy drinks and all those other things that are out there to keep you awake at night. And, just because you become a cop doesn't mean you stop taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Take that back to the very, very first class, the intro to law enforcement, and started introducing it there. So where I taught at Golden West College in Huntington Beach, which is one of the academies here in Orange County, is we had a class called Intro to Fitness. And it was just that. It was a half a unit, and we had class on Tuesday, Thursday nights, and then Saturday morning for 2 hours. And it was just nothing but learning about fitness, eating right, sitting there at 3 o'clock in the morning when nothing's open, and you've got to go into a gas station, mini mart, and what are you going to grab that's healthy?
Mm.
Or are you just going to go grab potato chips and snacks? Or are you going to look for stuff that, yeah, it's sold in the convenience store? It might not be the healthiest, but it's the healthiest of what's in there.
Yeah.
And so we started introducing that, and then that segued into the portion of the academy, which was the lifetime fitness portion that we teach throughout the entire 6 month police academy. And we just continued on there. But unfortunately, after that, once you're done, it's up to you as an individual to keep that going the rest of your career. So
Yeah.
we're really trying to make that a focus and just beat that into people and saying, hey, if you want to make it through your 35 31 years
Mhm.
and still going, that's I think that's part of what I've done with making sure I took care of myself. And now we've transitioned because when I started in 1994, mental health portion of it was not anything we talked about. Mental health portion of it was you and I, after the call, went to the back of the car and we just talked about what we saw, what we did. How are you? Oh, I'm good. All right, sweet. And then we'd go get beers after work or, do whatever. Now we're focusing on the mental part of it as well as the physical part of it, which I think is awesome. It's outstanding. And I wish we would have done it a long time ago because I would have seen a lot more of my friends make it to the end of their career not only mentally healthier, but also I think physically healthier. So yeah.
And I think that that's the ultimate goal for everybody. Like, if you were to go into a briefing and ask everyone, like, who wants to retire and not be able to move or do things or, not feel good mentally, physically, like, no one wants to sign up for that. And I think that if we can start as early as possible, it's so much easier to maintain that and to create that consistency. It's so much harder to have to like backtrack, and I've been there before where like maybe I've let some things slip and it's so much harder to get back on track than it would be to just start off on the right foot to begin with. And I think that we're kind of in that like that area right now where you have, you know, a generation who didn't have those resources. And so now it's kind of like, okay, how can we like get back to speed, you know? And then you have this younger generation that now has these resources earlier in their career, you know, because of agencies and academies like you guys have that are like, we need to focus on this earlier. So it is up to them, but I do think that they have a better opportunity to be able to carry that throughout their career because it started early with the education.
Yeah. And I think too, it also goes, not only does it that, but it's as a leader of an organization or as a supervisor or as an informal leader within the organization, I think it's incumbent upon all of us that are viewed that way to set the example. So if I'm going to tell you, hey, you need to go do this, well, I'm not doing it, but you need to go do it. How does that go? No, if I'm asking you to do it, I'm going to do it too.
Yep.
And I think you have to lead by example. And if we're trying to change the culture and say that the mental health aspect is important, well, then I have to be the leader and say, it is important to me too. That's why I'm going through it with you. And if I'm doing it, well, if the chief's doing it and people respect me, okay, cool. Well, if they don't respect me, but they respect a captain or a lieutenant and they're going through it as well, then they're going to be more apt to go through it too. And you're just going to set the tone of what is the norm of the culture. It's almost like being a parent, right? How can I tell you don't smoke cigarettes if I'm smoking a pack a day?
Right. Yeah, and I think it just goes back to, you know, how can you bake that into your culture? And we talked a little bit about this of like setting that foundation and creating a culture where it's not only like accepted, but it's encouraged and where things are being utilized. Can you give a little bit of some background into the things that you're doing organizationally to kind of create that foundation of wellness and some of the things that you've implemented that have been successful?
Yeah. So, you know what, the approach that I've taken is that, you know, we have to go out into society. We're here for 40 plus hours a week, 12 and a half hours a day. Some of us, especially in my position, we're here a lot longer. Um, if we have to deal with everything on the outside and deal with the community's problem, when we come back here in these four walls of the police department, this is our safe space.
Mhm.
This is so I want to create a culture in here within these four walls of having a good time, laughing. I want to hear laughter. I want to hear smiling. I don't want to hear people, you know, complaining and upset. So what I've done is, you know, people have come up and they've had ideas. Hey, Chief, can we have a Super Bowl party? We have to work, you know, can we do Super Bowl potluck? Absolutely. Matter of fact, not only are we doing that, wear your favorite football jersey. What? We don't have to. No, if you're in here, throw your jersey on. Matter of fact, let's play some games and have little fun competitions. Okay, great. Impromptu little putting competitions down the hallway for a Starbucks gift card. Um, just anything to have fun and take that edge off. And then with these younger officers, for me, I'll go down, I'll leave work a little bit early and I'll go down in the gym before they get there. And then when they come in, we'll have little competitions in the gym. In the mornings, we'll all just kind of come in and maybe bring in Starbucks or bring in some breakfast burritos or whatever, just to take that edge off and to create an environment of it's a safe environment, it's fun. The other things that we're you know doing in here is we've got some other little fitness competitions that we do um, amongst some of the upper management because it's pretty funny to see us old guys in there, right? Trying to keep up with these 25-year-old kids. But you know, it's fun just laughing and letting them see that they don't have to be on edge when supervision's around. And my philosophy is, look, you know what? I'm the chief. When we're out in public, absolutely I'm the chief. When we have mixed company in the building, yes, I'm the chief. Yes, that's the captain. Yes, that's a lieutenant. But when it's just us, I'm Mark. These are invisible. I'm Mark. And we're just going to talk, have a good time, and we're going to treat each other as equals. But when it comes time to work, that radio goes off, whatever the bells ring. We're going out there to handle business and we're going to do our job. We're going to do it the best we can. And then we're going to come back and we're going to get right back to having a good time. And it seems to be working. Not that it seems, I know it's working. I know it's working here. So might not be for everybody, but I found what works for us. And, you know, I'm going to keep it going until they tell me it's not working, and then we're going to find something else that's going to work. So,
I'm a really big fan of that. And there's a few things I wanted to touch on. So one, it's control the controllable, right? Like you can't control what happens out on the streets, the types of calls you get, the people you encounter, the things you see, but you can control the environment within the organization. And I love that you're trying to create a place where people are happy and having a good time and connecting with each other. And I would imagine that that impacts mood and performance on the job too. You know, if you don't like being where you are and everything is negative and everything inside just sucks, then what is your attitude and performance going to look like when you're out in the community? And so I would imagine if you come inside and you guys are having fun and you humanize yourself, you guys are a team, you're, you know, doing things together, there's camaraderie, then when it is time to go out in the streets, you are in a better headspace, more positive headspace.
oh, for sure. And that's what I want. I mean, look, my approach to it, I look at it this way. I might be a chief, but I'm really the CEO of a company. And what my company does is it provides public safety. And if my employees are not happy to provide that public safety, then my customer, the citizen, isn't going to get the best quality service that they expect and that they deserve.
Yep.
So, happy employee, happy service provider. Sounds kind of weird to say at the end, talking about police contact, but happy customer, right?
Yeah,
Might not be happy when you're in handcuffs, but at
right.
least, you know,
I wanted to ask you a question because I think that this topic has come up quite a few times recently. Do you think that it's harder to be in policing today than it has been in the past?
yes, I do. I think there's a greater expectation that's placed on us, um, especially when it comes to mental health and homelessness and everything that it seems that if people don't know where to put it or who to call, it just automatically defaults to the police department, and we're just supposed to handle it. When you look at what law enforcement was really created for and what our job really entails, then you're throwing in all these other things. You got to be a social worker, you got to be a counselor, you've got to be, you've got to solve this problem of, the neighbor's house looks horrible. The paint's peeling on the eaves and the lawn's overgrown, and it just makes our neighborhood look like garbage. Well, that's not really a police officer's job, but we took it on
Mm,
because we know that the trickle effect from having a house or a car that's broken down in front of a house, what that starts doing is it starts degrading the neighborhood, and then you see this downgrade effect instead of a lot of pride and ownership. So we've kind of taken on those responsibilities late in the 90s and early in the 2000s. And so the community has just expected that, but that's not the training we're really providing in the academy.
mm.
So with the use of body worn cameras and everybody's taping, I just dated myself, recording, everyone's recording us, and you're only getting a snippet of what really transpired prior to that person recording the officer. It just gives that appearance that, hey, we might not have done everything we could before the person recorded the end result.
Right.
And so I think that's tougher on us because you have multiple platforms trying to tell our story. And that's one thing that I really, really preach for us is with social media. I want to tell our story. I don't want somebody else telling our narrative. I don't want somebody speaking for us. So I try and get our folks to really push out that social media platform and kind of make our job easier because people know who we are as a brand, Cypress PD. And so they know, one, that trust is already there in our community. Two, they know what they're going to get when they call us. And three, they know they're going to get the best service possible because we're blasting it all over social media and we're getting out in front of it and we're telling our story and we are the ones setting our narrative, not somebody else.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that response. And we know that, and I don't, and maybe you can pin it to a specific year or a specific event. We know that, 2020 was a really hard time and, things that transpired since then. And public perception has been tough and has changed a lot. And like you said, with everyone having cameras and, things happening within the community. And I really like that you are humanizing everyone within the organization and really showing like, hey, these are people and like we're here for you to try to change that public perception and engage with the community. How important do you think it is to have community engagement as it pertains to the wellness of your officers?
Oh, I think it's huge because, that's really the foundation of the way people are going to perceive us.
Mhm.
And if we don't get out there, engage in the community for me, one of my biggest, I'll say project, but something I'm very passionate about is getting the police officers in the schools, in the elementary schools. We have a school resource officer that works in the high schools and in the junior high, and she does an amazing job. But for me, it really starts in the elementary schools. And so when I came over to Cyprus, I said, you know what? Every cop is going to have a school. They are going to be responsible for that school. They are going to be on a face-to-face basis with the principal, with the staff. We're going to exchange cell phone numbers. And I don't care in your downtime, if you're out there playing basketball with the kids, playing handball, serving lunch, if you're letting them hit you with water balloons, you're doing push-up contests, pull-up contests, I don't care. I want you engaging with those kids. Nobody's going to get in trouble because they're not out, patrolling. You're doing something. You're doing community engagement. You are making several deposits into our goodwill bank with the community. And it has taken the perception. Now, Cyprus has always had a great reputation,
Mhm.
but it has flourished since we have been embedding ourselves in the schools and all the events that go on around here in Cyprus with our Cyprus Community Festival, our 5K, 10K walk run event. We've got, October is Celebrate Cyprus month. So in October, just about every day, every weekend, there's something going on. And our cops are out there. And so now what we've done is we've taken and we've humanized who we are,
Mhm.
even though they know that we got to come deal with some bad stuff when they call us. But it's completely changed the way, and I can see it here in the station. It's completely changed the I want to say perception because we had a good perception, but it's enhanced our perception.
Mhm.
And the officers that are dealing with it out there and engaging are seeing a change because now kids are calling them by their first name.
Mhm.
Hey, Officer John, or hey, John, whatever. And you can see they're happy and they're laughing and they're smiling and they're being silly. They're not being that stoic, no emotion, emotionless cop, which is what we used to do, right? That's the way when I became a cop in the 90s. That's what it was. No emotion. You stand there, you're very stoic. No, now we're laughing, we're taking pictures, smiling with the kids, being goofy. And I think it has a great effect on our officers because they know that, okay, now it used to be a lot of negativity, especially coming out of, what happened with the civil unrests
Mhm.
in early 2020s. Um, and we've taken and shifted that pendulum to where that negative vibe isn't there anymore. It's shifting and our guys are having a good time. So
I love that. And I was like cheesing, smiling the whole time if people aren't watching the video. But I think it's a reminder for everyone listening, like a lot of the stuff that you talked about does not take money.
cost me nothing.
It costs, yeah, and to me it's like, yes, like programming's great, but it's not everything.
Yeah.
And there are so many things that you can do to build that culture and to, promote wellness without having to spend anything. It takes time and effort, but to have your officers out there playing basketball with kids and like goofing off, like that's not wellness funding that has to go somewhere. So I think that that's just like a really cool reminder that there's so much that you can do without spending a dime.
Yeah, it hasn't cost me anything,
Yeah. And it's
nothing at all.
And it's like you always hear that's like, well, we can't do it. We can't have wellness because we don't have funding or support or whatever. And it's like, but you can. You actually really can. And there's so many things that you can do. And almost everything that you said what were things that you can do with awareness and effort,
Mhm.
and a little bit of time to like get things off the ground maybe and to build that like camaraderie. But I love all the things that you said because it's a testament that you don't have to have a huge budget.
Right. And realistically, what are you doing? You're getting them to do something without them realizing they're doing it. Right? Isn't that a sign of a good leader? Getting your people to do something without them that you want them to do without them realizing they're doing it. And it is, it's getting them healthy. It's getting mental healthy because these kids now are engaging them, the teachers, the parents, the kids are going home and talking to the parents. And now the parents are showing up at school in the morning for, drop off or pick up. And they're seeing the police there and they're no longer going, oh my gosh, the cops are here. What happened at the school? Oh, now they're just going, yeah, they're here every day. Yeah, that's Officer Kelly. That's Officer Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not, there's not a negative connotation of why the cops are here now. Now they know the cops are here because we're just part of the community and we're here to have fun with the kids. And then now our cops are getting, it's helping them out mentally and sometimes physically if you're working up a sweat playing basketball. But that's a whole nother topic.
No,
So,
I love it. What do you think is like what is your hope for the future? What if you could like wave a magic wand, like what else would you like to see in the wellness space that you think would be like the next step?
you know, I would like to see if I could, and this is, I, I know some agencies have started dabbling in this, but I would like to see physical fitness and mental health fitness, I'll call it,
Mhm.
part of your daily routine. That we work a 12 and a half hour shift, that if there was a way, staffing way, if we could get the staffing numbers up, that the first hour of your day or the last hour of your day is somewhere gauged around physical fitness. And not only that, but introducing some type of a dietary program into the organization
Mm.
because we are always on the go, right? You look at the firemen, right? The fire guys, they don't do proactive work. They respond when the bell rings, right? So if they're going on 5 calls a day in a 24-hour period, that's a lot of downtime to cook a good meal, to
Yeah.
sit down and eat a good meal. If you get interrupted, they go back and they reheat it and they eat it. And so, and they have a workout program embedded in their 24-hour day where they're at the station. I would love to see something like that for law enforcement. We're not here 24 hours, we're here 12 and a half, but those are a grueling 12 and a half hours of on the go constantly because either you're going on a call or you're being proactive and you're looking for that element in society that needs to be addressed.
Mm.
And so there's not a lot of downtime. And if we could just find a way to incorporate that in our workday to be uninterrupted and then require our employees, not just our officers, but our employees, because we have our forensic people that are affected by what they see. We have our property people, we have our civilian investigators, and then we also have our front desk help or our records clerks and stuff that have to engage with the community and upset customers that come in and are screaming and yelling because some cop 3 days ago did something and now they're going to take it out on you and incorporate some type of mental health um, I call it mental health fitness, right?
I love it.
Just to sit down and talk and have a clinician here at the station and just go, hey, all right, yeah, let's sit down and talk. Let's chat for 30 minutes. We have a chaplain that comes in and that's takes it upon himself to just walk around and go, how are you doing today? And I know for me, in one incident where I had a little 5-year-old boy run over and killed, and my job was to be with his family the whole time. So for the time we got to the hospital to the time the coroner came and picked up the body, I was in the emergency room with this little boy, his family, his brothers and sisters. And what do? You can't, I can't leave. So I've got to stay there with strangers I don't know and a little boy that's dead and a family grieving. So afterwards, they made us go talk. Well, I didn't go see a therapist. I went to the chaplain,
Mm.
which I thought was better. So here at Cypress, we have a chaplain that walks around all the time and just, hey, how you doing? How things? Want to talk? And it's amazing at how many people will just sit down for a few minutes and talk with him. And it kind of helps. He looks like a skater. He's got a shaved head, tattoos, and wears Vans and, Dickie shorts and stuff and t-shirts. And he doesn't look like a chaplain, which is funny. But he's just able to engage with the employees. And I think it's awesome because whether they know it or not, they're getting a little mental health workout just by talking to them.
Yeah,
And I would love to see that more with the future.
I would too. I really would too. I wanted to say something, and this is maybe circling back a little bit, but all the things that we've talked about today, because you said staffing, like if you can get the staffing numbers up, and I know that across the country that's been a challenge, right? It's like how can you get more people who want to be in this career, but then more so how can you retain your current staff to stay there and want to stay there? And I think everything that we've talked about so far attributes to retention. If they like being there, if they feel valued, if they have those resources, then they're going to have a long and successful career and they're going to want to stay in this career. But to your point earlier, and I thought about this when you were saying your last comment, if you can get the staffing up, and I don't know if you've thought about this, but I would imagine all the efforts with community engagement, you being at the schools, playing with the kids, setting a good example, like them liking you guys and having a good time, that could be aspirational for the next generation to want to do this job, to have had like positive experiences with law enforcement of like, yeah, like you know, John was over here playing basketball with us, and I thought he was the coolest guy ever. And like, that's what made me want to be a cop. Like, I wanted to be in law enforcement. And so I think that everything we've talked about can contribute to both to retention and recruitment.
Oh, absolutely. And that's you kind of picked up on it and I wasn't saying it, but you picked up on it. That's another reason why I've got our officers in the schools is
Yeah.
because we have to start somewhere. And, for me, I make sure that I get to the high school. I super involved with our girls softball, boys football, baseball, some of the soccer stuff, and just being around campus and letting those kids see it. I go to the gym and run into him at the gym here in Cypress all the time, which kind of like makes for a longer gym session, but whatever. And now we're starting to see this class that graduated 4 years ago since I became the chief here. They're now reaching out and we're actually interviewing them, a couple of them, to send them to the academy now. And it's all because they said, and I had one kid in here today, and I go, why here? Why do you want to come to Cyprus? And he goes, because this is the place where I've felt the most comfortable and the most valued.
Mm,
And this is where it all started for me, is you guys gave me the introduction and it's never left my mind. Like, that's a pretty good answer
I love
for a
that.
young man. So, you know, that it's working. There's something, and you're right. It does start with recruitment and retention. So,
Yeah, and I'm not sure if when we talked offline, if I shared any of like my background with you, but my parents were drug addicts. My dad was incarcerated. Like that was my reality. And when he got out, like there was a lot of domestic violence and I didn't have positive role models. And I wish I would have had someone at my school who was inspiring and telling me, hey, there are options. Like you can strive to be better and you can have a career that's honorable and you can do these things with your life. Because for me, like my reality was, if I'm either going to end up like my parents because that's what everyone expects me to be, or maybe I don't, and then that's the best I could hope for is to not. So the bar was so low, and like I wish that I had people like you guys, at my school and showing me that there's another way, because my experiences were so different. And I think that it's another thing to remember that like you have the ability to inspire the next generation. And there are a lot of kids out there that maybe don't have good examples, and you can be that role model and that, inspiration for them to strive to do better with their lives.
Yeah. Hope so.
Yeah,
That's the goal.
well, it's already happening. You have someone in your office today saying, "Man, you inspired me, and I want to choose this career because of you."
Yeah.
So I think that's a testament within itself. I have one last question for you, and then I'll let you take the floor if we miss anything else. But um, what words of wisdom would you share with someone who's earlier in their career? Maybe something that you wish you would have known, or something that's helped you along the way.
Um, you know, what I would tell somebody who's starting their career now is don't, first off, don't overdo it here. I always say the big blue machine is going to keep going with or without you. There's never been a police department that has stopped functioning because one person left that organization. Don't sacrifice your family. This job's fun. We make great money. We have a good time. We get to do things that most people will never, ever get to do in their entire life. It's very rewarding, very self-fulfilling, and it feels great to help somebody. But leave it here. You don't have to be here all the time. Your family needs you. You wear many hats. You're a cop, you're a dad, you're a husband, you're a son, you're a daughter, you're a wife, a mom. You have to wear all those different hats. When you're here, wear your cop hat. When you go home and you're with your wife, your husband, wear that title, wear that hat, and focus on that person. Make them the priority. Forget about work. And no matter what happens, when things get bad, fight through it. Don't give up. Don't quit, because everybody's going to have a good day. Everybody's going to have a bad day. But at the end of the day, your family is really all you're going to have, because 30 years from now, you're going to say goodbye to this job, and this job isn't going to give to you know what's about you, but your family is. Your family is going to be there till the very end. So when you're with your family, focus on them. Don't become a statistic in a broken home. And enjoy the ride, have a great time. But remember, you're here, you're home, you're home. And that's really what I would say to somebody.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate your time and your words of wisdom so much. If there's anything I missed, it's your chance to take the floor, but that's all I have for you.
yeah, no, I think you hit everything. And I just appreciate you reaching out and letting me be on your podcast. This was something I didn't expect it to be this easy and this fun. I thought it was going to be more, I thought I'd be very nervous. You make it very easy to talk to you.
Thank
So,
you. I
yeah,
appreciate that. And thank you for your time. I don't know if I said this before, but our time is our most valuable asset. I really believe that. And so I'm really honored that you spent some of your time with me. So thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course.